Hello, and thank you for coming to my webcast. We're going to talk about Fired Up tonight, and we're going to begin with an intro that tells you a little bit about me. We're having this webcast to launch my newest release, Fired Up. It's book 2 in the Trouble in Texas series. I write romantic comedy with cowboys. I am a Rita and a Christie Award finalist. I am also a 2-time Carol Award winner. And Fired Up is my 28th book. Book 1 in the Trouble in Texas series is Swept Away. And I have also written the Lassoed in Texas series, the Montana Marriages series, the Sophie's Daughters series, and the Kincaid Bride series. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. I've never done a webcast before, so I hope this goes well, and if it doesn't, well, it'll give us something to talk about tomorrow. If you hear any racket in the background, it might be because I live on a Nebraska ranch, and we just weaned the calves yesterday. So we got mama calves and baby calves outside crying their heads off because they've been separated. It's pretty pathetic because the baby calves are just about as big as the mama calves, and they really do need to be weaned, but it sort of breaks your heart anyway. So anyway, thank you very much for coming to my webcast, and we're going to give a lot of great prizes away tonight, and I hope we have... So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to read a couple of trivia questions. And I will make a statement, and you will answer in the social media part of this whether or not it's true or false. Question number 1. Mary writes romantic comedy with zombies. Question number 2. Mary entertains Facebook followers during the spring with pictures of baby calves. There. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. Go see if that, go answer those questions on Facebook. And now I'm going to answer a couple of the questions that were sent in before this webcast started. The first one is, can Fired Up be read as a standalone novel, or do you have to read Swept Away for Fired Up to make sense? I think that it stands alone on its own. It's not like it's continued from the book before or anything like that. But I think maybe it's a little more fun if you read the books in order. So I wouldn't not read it if you can't get your hands on book 1. But you know, I think you might like it a little more if you read book 1 first. So yeah, I'd say it stands alone. Okay. And what was the most interesting fact you discovered while researching the book? You know, I'm never sure what people, because these things fascinate me. So I might bore people by what I find just so interesting. But Andersonville Prison, horrible, brutal prisoner of war camp during the Civil War. Oh man, I think maybe 45,000 men were held prisoner in this camp over the years that it was open, and they said 1 out of 3 died, mainly from starvation or from any illness that went along with starvation, just because they were so weakened that any time they got sick, it was just fatal. And here's the thing that just fascinated me. There was a baby born in Andersonville Prison. There was a woman in there that nobody knew was a woman. She was in there with her husband. In fact, I found this so fascinating that I ended up doing a lot of research. They know her name. They know the name of her baby and her husband. It's absolutely true. And I ended up, it's not really based on her, but I ended up being inspired to write another whole series of books because I found that so fascinating. That I found out there were a lot of women who fought in the war disguised as men. And anyway, it's just one of those little facts that just made me tingle. I found it so interesting. So anyway, okay, I've talked about that enough. And now we are going to go and we are going to play the video trailer for Fired Up. Tell you two more trivia questions, and you can answer them on Facebook. And here we go. Mary's new release, Fired Up, is about a doctor who didn't graduate 4th grade and a diner owner who can't cook. True or false? And here's the next question. Dare, the hero of Fired Up, came to Texas to help his friend who he met in the Revolutionary War. True or false? Now I will answer another of these questions that I was given. What do you love about Western romance? Well, you know, I really do love it. I love cowboys. There's just something about, I never write a paragraph for a cowboy when I can write a sentence. And I never write a sentence when I can write a single word. And I never write a word when they can just nod or grunt. There's just something about the minimal way they react to everything that I just find so fun to write. And a lot of times I'll have written a whole scene and then I'll go back and I'll just start cutting and cutting and cutting what the guy said. How much can I do with just a look or just the way he moves? And because I just think that's the way cowboys act. They just don't talk about their feelings, and they don't explain what they're going to do. They just do it. So I don't know. I just think they're so fun to write, and I think that they are particularly great in romance because I think cowboys figure out what they want right away. So they see a woman and they want her, and there aren't a lot of women around out in the Wild West, so they pretty much see any woman and they just decide if they want her or not. And then of course then you have a woman who is just like, what do you mean? You know, like some guy just decides in the first hour, like, well, okay, you're the woman for me. And of course no woman can ever make a decision that easily. And it's just fun contrasting the confident cowboy with the confused woman who's just got a strong man who knows exactly what he wants. Anyway, does anyone in your real life inspire characters in your book? Well, I'm married to my very own romantic cowboy hero. He's my high school sweetheart, and we've been married we just had this talk, I believe it's going to be 38 years this January. And so I think I can bring a lot of authenticity to country life and to how a cattleman acts, and boy, I know rural life, and I know cows, and so I always tell people when they say, do real people inspire work, I always say, well, you know, you don't really want your life to be a book, because terrible things happen in books, because normal happy lives, they're not interesting enough to be books, and you don't want your life to be a book. If your life's a book, that's usually a bad thing. You really want a boring, happy, easy life, so you don't want your life to be a book. So, but a lot of times things happen, and it's a jumping off spot. It's like, if this happened, or that happened, or what if, and you make it worse, and you go a little too far with it. So yeah, some things inspire the start of an idea, and then you take it and you twist it and you make it way worse and way bigger and way more exaggerated than it is. And I'll answer one more question. What does a typical day look like for you? What's your writing process? Well, I think I'm really low maintenance as a writer. I don't have I don't have to have music. I don't have to have a certain candle burning. I don't have to have a certain time of the day or utter peace and quiet. I can write and then the phone rings and I can stop and take the call and just go right back to writing. I can write morning, afternoon, evening, late night. So I'm not very orderly. I suppose middle, late afternoon is when I get most of my writing done, but not necessarily. So, my writing process is that I try to write 1,000 words a day, at least 5 days a week, and I often write more than that. I very rarely write less than that. If I'm in a hurry, I certainly pick up that pace. I know I was a little late on a deadline a few years back, and I wrote 3,000 words a day, 7 days a week for an entire month, and I wrote a 90,000 word book in a month, and I can do it. I mean, I know I can do it if I need to, and it's good to know that. So anyway, okay, so I think now I have answered enough questions. And now, give me 1 minute to look at this email. I don't see anybody saying that they didn't hear that last video, so I guess I'm going to go play it again. I hope they're coming out, because it's sort of sad for you if they're not. So now I'm going to play the video of the calf. Questions. And let's see. These are true and false questions. Glenna in Fired Up was a saloon dancer in book 1 of the Trouble in Texas series, Swept Away. True or false? Glenna has 3 sons. True or false? And I'm going to read one more. Fired Up is Mary's first Western ever. Okay, now some more questions. Let me move this. Excuse me. Okay. What do you do to get out of writer's block? You know, I almost hate to say this out loud because I'm not a superstitious person, but still, it's almost like you're asking for trouble. I've never had writer's block. Writing is just what I do. It's my default activity. It's like that. People have to drag me out from behind the computer to do life. I said to someone one time, I have life block. Somebody needs to drag me out to live. Instead, I want to just go back to the computer and be a writer. So I don't have writer's block. I don't know, maybe some people read my books and think, wow, you probably should have had writer's block on this part right here. Clearly, you didn't have any idea what you should have been writing. But I don't, so I just keep writing. I just don't, I don't know, maybe I'm just asking for trouble. I shouldn't even say that. I shouldn't admit it. I don't have writer's block. Anyway, if I can't think of something to do, if I can't think of what to do, I tend to just shoot somebody. I just like, what should happen next? I remember one time I was writing a scene. This wasn't this was before I was published. I was writing something else, a contemporary. And I remember my couple was, oh, what were they doing? They were either standing in the kitchen folding laundry or they were standing in the kitchen putting groceries away. I just remember thinking, okay, this book has gone seriously wrong because this is the most boring thing I have ever seen in my life. And I said that to somebody and she said, you know what, why don't you leave the door open and let a little child run outside into traffic? And you get the idea. You just got to keep something happening at all times. So that's what I do. When things are, if there's not something going on, I just shoot somebody. I just have a bullet come whizzing by, and then I got to figure out where the bullet come from. And okay, then you got to back up and figure out where the bad guys are and who shot who and why'd they shoot them. And it can be an emotional bullet. It can be a metaphorical bullet, but I actually prefer if it's really a bullet. I just get the action going. I highly recommend it. Sometimes that's not that easy to do in a sweet coming of age Amish story. The bullets are trickier then, but that's why I write westerns, so I can just always do the bullets. Okay, what story ideas are you working on next? Oh, well, I just turned in book 3. Oh, I had so much fun with that book. That, as a matter of fact, I have the cover for it. And tomorrow on Seekerville, if any of you hang around with us on Seekerville, tomorrow we're doing a cover reveal for book 3, which is called Stuck Together. It's coming in June 2014. So book 1 is swept away. Totally not a mirror image of the cover there. Book 2 is fired up, and book 3 stuck together. And that cover will be on Seekerville tomorrow, along with some fun I had writing about the backstory, because these guys in this 3-book series, along with a 4th friend who weaves through all these stories, met in Andersonville prison, which is where Dare learned to be a doctor, which we're going to talk about that. That's one of the questions that's coming in just a little bit. And he learned to be a doctor because he got dragged into the medical unit in Andersonville prison. And so he's not really a doctor. He just got to help a doctor a lot. And I don't want to tell you the very end because it's sort of the conclusion of the whole book. So you're going to have to read it. That would really be a spoiler. It'd be right up there with, Tony Perkins is his own mother and Psycho, that kind of thing. It's just not, this is not something I want to do. So anyway, so we're going to talk about it tomorrow in Seekerville, a little bit about this story I wrote about how they all met in Andersonville. And there's going to be some prizes there. We're doing great things on Seekerville. This is our birthday month, and we're doing a good giveaway tomorrow. We're doing giveaways all month, and we're going to talk about how they met, and the novella I've written about how they met. And I'm not really sure what to do with this novella because it's just sitting on my computer. And I don't know what to do with it. I might just email it to you individually if you write to me. I don't know. Maybe I should just leave it on a park bench and run. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow, along with the cover for Stuck Together, which is coming next year. I'm not even sure how I got started, but that's what I'm working on next. And after that, I just signed a new contract with Bethany House, been a few months back. And I've turned Stuck Together in, and it's all done, and we're done with the revisions, and I've started working on the next series. And this is the series that was inspired by that baby that was born in Andersonville prison. Women who fought in the Civil War disguised as men. And I'm not writing about the Civil War, but this is their backstory. This is 3 sisters whose father, when they lost their oldest brother in the Civil War, their father, in just a fit of grief and madness, pressured his daughters into disguising themselves as men and going and fighting, to avenge their brother. and the aftermath of that. This is the aftermath of that. This is scars they bear, and anyway, they've all moved out west now, and oh, there's more to it. I'm not going to tell you that whole thing, and we'll talk about more than that. That's a long way in the future. We got to get through this series first. So, excuse me, I've got a question over here. So, just in case it's somebody telling me to shut up. Nope, not yet. We just got more questions, so that's good. It'll keep me talking this whole next half hour. When did you know you wanted to be a writer? You know, I wrote my first book when I was about 12 years old. I don't really think of being a writer as something I do. I just think it's something that I am. And I didn't really know that when I was younger. I mean, I wrote that book just because I read a book that I loved and I decided I wanted to try it. But I look back at things. This really struck me at my 25th high school reunion, because some girl had brought a box of old papers that she'd found in her aunt was a teacher, and she found this old box of papers, and this girl was one of my classmates, and she just kind of handed them out here, and then she handed one to me, and here was this book review that I had written, a book I could remember reading, and it was long. I don't remember how long we were supposed to make book reviews, or not book reports, not a book review, but a book report. And it was long. And I looked at that because I was already writing books at my 25th high school reunion, but I hadn't gotten published yet. And it just went on and on and on. Oh, I bet I annoyed my teacher some fierce. She probably just, I don't have one of those great stories. So like my high school English teacher said, I see you have a gift. You must pursue it. Nah, I never got any of that. She probably just looked at that and like, oh, this is going to take me forever to grade this. I don't know. Anyway, I always wrote. I look at my kids' baby books. They're covered with writing. I would rather write about what they did than put a picture of what they were doing. I mean, there's pictures too, but all the inside covers, all the blank spots covered with writing. I just always loved to write. I love to express myself and tell what was going on with writing. So writing is just what I do. It's who I am. I'm a writer. So I don't know how I knew I wanted to write. I just know that I am a writer. What tools do you find most helpful as a writer? I Google and Wikipedia. They're huge. They're my beginning spot for all my research. I try to get out from behind the computer and go do things. I just had the best time at an old fort that's kind of close to me. One of my other blogs is called Petticoats and Pistols, and it's for Western romance. Seekerville is for aspiring writers, but we have so much fun. We just throw a party there every day. I invite you all to join us. Petticoats and Pistols is for Western romance novelists and for anybody who loves Western romance, and we have fun and share all the great things we find while we're doing research. And I've been posting blogs about this old fort that we went to, and I have been trying to do better about getting out from behind the computer and going out and actually getting my hands on things, because I'm so bad about doing all my research online, and I know I need to see things and get a more three-dimensional idea of things in my research. So, but I do so much of my research online. People are always saying they took research trips and did great things, and I'm just like, oh, well, I pretty much just Googled it, and I try to do better at that. Dare was a doctor. Could just anyone become a doctor? What kind of training did doctors have back then? Well, he was a medic who really, they just needed help, and they dragged him in Andersonville prison. So he really didn't go to medical school. Do you think you'll ever write a book that isn't cowboy-centric? Absolutely. I've written several books that aren't cowboys. I wrote for 10 years before I got my first book published, and at the end of that 10 years, I had 20 finished books on my computer, and they're not all cowboy books. But the cowboy book is the one that first got published, and I think it's maybe because I just found a perfect voice for myself. But I have some other books on my computer that I really love. I don't know if it's quite as good of a fit, but I wrote a gothic romance that I just really like. that I'd love to see published someday. I did write a book called 10 Plagues one time by Mary Neely. That's it's on Amazon and Christian book distributors and Barnes and Noble. It's out there. And I wrote a series of cozy mysteries one time that's available under Mary Neely's name, and it's also I don't know if it's still available. If it is, it'd be a used book, but it's called Nosy in Nebraska. But anyway, and I also wrote a book that's contemporary, but that's sort of Western, called Black Hill's Blessing. So no, I've written, but they're not all cowboy centric, but mostly they are. So if you could live anywhere during any time period, when and where would you live? Oh, I don't think I'd do well in the Old West. As much as we love to romanticize that time, I just love air conditioning. I am just such a wimp. I think I would do poorly in the Old West. I'd just probably roll off that covered wagon the first time we hit a bump and fall off and break a leg. I'd be such a burden to everyone. I don't think I'd make it. I'd drown the first creek crossing. I don't know. I'd like to think if the going got tough, I'd get going. I don't know. I'd surprise everyone if I did. Okay, well, I'm not going to play any more videos, even though I had planned to at this point. We're going to try to put them up somehow on Facebook. Your life will go on just fine without them. But anyway, I'm going to read the last few trivia questions here, so that, because they're going to get your answers, and we're going to draw some winners for the right answers and give away some prizes. I think they're doing that as we go along. So I will give you the last answers. We've still got plenty of time. Oh my goodness, we've got plenty of time. Okay, I'm not quite sure where I left off. If I read one of these twice, I'm sorry. Mary was born and raised in the big city. True or false? Mary is a neat freak who is famous far and wide for her love of dusting. True or false? Dare Riker is the doctor in Broken Wheel, Texas, and on Sundays he serves as the town parson. True or false? Okay. Do you enjoy reading Westerns? If so, who is your favorite Western writer? Well, I'll tell you right now, I am loving what Karen Whittemire is doing. Margaret Brownlee, they are just so fun to read. I love Janet Dean's last book, the Dr. War. Oh, I'm not going to be able to say the title, but it was so fun, and I helped her with it just a little bit. We did some talking with her about a few Western things, and we had a good time doing it. Dr. War Spurs, is that right, Janet? You can yell at me if it's not afterwards. Anyway, look up Janet Dean. You'll have fun with that one. And all the ladies on Petticoats and Pistols are doing great work with Westerns. That's what's going on right now. I was raised on Louis L'Amour. I'm a big fan, and I think a lot of people would tell you that my books are more Louis L'Amour than they are romance novels. I've had really good reaction from men to my books. Lots of action, lots of riding and shooting, and so a big Louis L'Amour fan, Zane Grey. So I do enjoy reading Westerns. As a matter of fact, I just got the book Shane. I didn't know it was a book. I've seen the movie, but one of the ladies on Petticoats and Pistols the other day did a blog post on Shane that they said it was the top all-time novel. They were talking about the Virginian and Riders on the Purple Sage, and I think Hondo. Riders on the Purple Sage was Zane Grey's, one of his most recognized books, and Hondo, Louis L'Amour, and Owen Wister's Virginian, and then Shane. And I didn't know it was a book. I thought it was only a movie. So I just got it, so I got to go read it. It's the best Western of all time. and I've never read it. My goodness, that is a gap in my knowledge. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. Who is your favorite Western writer? Right now, I'll tell you what. I don't know. It's a close call because I love the last book that Karen Whittemire wrote. I loved it so much. And Margaret Brownlee, I don't know. All those ladies at Petticoats and Pistols are doing work that I am absolutely so fond of. Cheryl St. John. I shouldn't start naming them because I can't name them all, and I just love the work they're doing. So anyway, okay, I'm done with all the nice little questions that are on this piece of paper. So from now on, I'm going to have to go look at the questions that are over on this screen that are coming in as we speak. So that's going to require a lot of leaning out of the screen, which will be completely awkward, and I apologize for that. Becky asks, what was your favorite book to write? You know, that's one of those mean questions, Becky. You should be ashamed of yourself for that. The thing is, it's hard to not be in love with the book you're writing right now, because I'm just started a book right now that you're just so immersed in it and you're having fun. I'm just starting this new series. I'm just unwinding the beginning of it, and I always try to start my books with an explosion, and that can be an emotional explosion, but I prefer it if something's really blowing up, you know. So it's such a cliche to say the book I'm writing right now is my favorite, but oh, grizzly bears and falling over a cliff, swept away down a big river, screaming, and waterfalls and rapids, jagged rocks below. This is pretty fun. So I really, really, really am enjoying this book right now. I don't know if I've ever had more fun writing a book than maybe Sharpshooter in Petticoats, because it had ended up being the 9th book in a 9-book series, which it didn't really start out to be, because I kind of wrote the whole Lassoed in Texas series, and I wrote the whole Montana Marriages series, and I was done with them before I started the Sophie's Daughter series and got the idea to try to wind those 3 books through all 6 of those other books. And that 9th book, I just got to pull those threads all the way through all those books, and I just had so much fun doing that. I love doing that. So I don't know, maybe for a lot of people that was too much, because to me it was just so full of inside jokes. And if you have read all those books and are as familiar with them as the author is, it was just a delight. But I don't know if anybody else is, but I just loved writing Sharpshooter and Petticoats. Honestly, Over the Edge with Crazy Seth Kincaid. Oh my goodness, I had fun writing him. Wow. That was a good one. And now I just enjoyed the Trouble in Texas series so much. Oh, someone at the door. I hope he's not afraid to come in. I'll see if he'll come over and say hi to us. Okay. Come on in. They want to meet you. I've been feeling kind of silly sitting here by myself. No, come over here. Just lean into the picture and then you can go. Okay, he doesn't want to, but he's going to do it anyway. This right here is the camera. There. That's my cowboy. Oh, he's gone. He's going downstairs to change. Maybe he'll come back later. Probably not. Okay, Cheryl wants to know which of your characters is most like you. You know, there's some things about some of my characters that are some like me. Mostly, I think my characters, I write these feisty lady ranchers, and mostly I think that a lot of them are how I wish I was. Just so tough, because I am not tough. I'm such a wimp. People have kind of teased me about Glenna, who would not know that they can't cook? But I kind of based her on me, didn't I, honey? the first year that we were married, oh, my husband is just so lucky to be alive. Oh, I don't know. I just couldn't cook anything without burning it. We finally just ripped the smoke alarm down. I don't know. I just set it off so many times. We got so sick of taking the battery out of it. I just had this thing where I just thought I had to cook it all the way through to the center, all the way through. I'm a space cadet, and I'd wander off. Some shiny object would distract me, and then smoke would come billowing out. And then, of course, for some reason, I always was late, so I just always ended up serving it to the poor guy. And oh my gosh, and his mom was such a good cook and such a nice lady. And my mom's a good cook and a nice lady too. She didn't deserve to have a daughter who couldn't cook the way I couldn't. Oh dear. So when people say, "Why would a lady not know how to cook?" My husband always says, "You told me you knew how to cook," and I said, "Well, I thought I could. I don't know." Okay, Juliana wants to know, what do you enjoy most about writing? I love everything about writing. I really do. I love that blank page right at the beginning. I just love the beginning of a book. Love trying to explode it. And I love writing it and then going back and making it better. I love revising it. And I love cutting it and sharpening it. And the more times you go through it, the better it gets. I love figuring out an action scene and how to make it move faster and be sharper. So I like the creation to begin with. I like the revisions. I don't know. I am so thrilled that someone's willing to publish my books, that I just, when I'm doing things like this, which are way outside my comfort zone, I am just trying so hard to honor the investment that Bethany House has made in me, that I just trying to hold up my end of the bargain in every way that I possibly can. So anyway, Wanda wants to know, why do you write historical fiction, westerns particularly? I think we kind of answered that one already. It's just the one that sold first. I guess I'd be writing Phyllis Whitney Gothic romances if I'd have gotten that one sold. Oh, you'd love them. We'd be having a good time if I'd have done that. Stacy wants to know, where do you go to observe people so you can write realistic characters? I am the most unobservant person in the world. I would make the worst witness to a crime. It's just terrible. My husband's way more observant than I am. He likes to sit around and people watch. Me, I'm just like, my head's in the cloud. I'm daydreaming, making stuff up. So you really think I do good characters, huh? It is probably just pure luck on my part. Comment from Bonnie, is your hubby anything like the cowboys in your books? Something he likes to say is, he just wandered through. If you heard doors opening and closing, he's just not interested in being on this at all. How are we doing for time? Plenty of time. Yay. Comment from Bonnie, your hubby anything like the cowboys in your books? In some broad ways he is, because he likes to say women like to talk things through and men like to think things through. And I think there's some truth in that. There's certainly men who are talkative, and there's certainly women who are introspective, you might say. But I think that there's some truth in that, and I think I sort of bring that to my books. Men who just think through what they're going to do and then just announce how it's going to be. My very first book, Petticoat Ranch, is about a mountain man who's never been around women, who ends up married to a widow with 4 daughters. Well, my husband is from a family of 7 sons, and now we have 4 daughters. And I think, if any of you have little brothers or big brothers, or sons and daughters, brothers just learn to delight in tormenting their sisters. Like, oh, I made her cry today. All right, just a good day. I humiliated her in front of her friends. Yay. I just think that's one of those things that my husband never learned. So the girls would cry, and they'd never stop chattering, and they'd giggle about everything, and it just was foreign to him. And he just I mean, he adores the girls and he's great with them, but there was just a lot of comedy in the way he would react to the girls. And I think I brought a lot of that to Petticoat Ranch, of course, and I just ramped it up, of course, because my husband had a mother around and he had lots of girl cousins and neighbors and classmates. And of course, he just married one woman and then we had one daughter at a time. So we had a lot more time to adjust. But some of the way he reacted to a horde of little girls, I think, is what inspired the comedy in Petticoat Ranch. And I think some of that comes through in a lot of the way my cowboys relate to women, just the utter confusion of why women behave the way they do. Okay, next question. Comment from Margaret McLaughlin. Did you always want to write? I started writing seriously with the idea of being published when my baby went to kindergarten. I said I wrote that first book when I was 12 years old, and I wrote my second book when my baby went to kindergarten. That's a 25-year gap. And when I look back on it, I really don't know what possessed me. I mean, I guess I know what sparked that first moment when I first sat down and started writing, but what in the world? I just always had just enough encouragement that I just kept doing it, and I just loved it. And that's what it really boils down to. I loved sitting there writing books. I was just having the time of my life, and it certainly beat, dusting. So that's about it. I just loved writing. I loved it way more than, anything else I was doing. How many books in this series, Mary? It's a 3-book series. I write almost all 3-book series. And this is book 2 of a 3-book series. And also, it's my 28th book. I've got a couple of ebooks. I count them. I mean, I've had some books that are repackaged. And so there are more books out there, like the Lassoed in Texas series has also been repackaged into a book called Lassoed in Texas Trilogy. So, that's another book that's out there. But just strictly how many individual books in print? 28. Comment from Carol. Mary, are you required to write faster than you'd like? No. I'm writing at a pace I'm real comfortable with. I was writing a lot faster. At the very beginning, of course, I had all those books written. Of those 20 finished books I had on my computer, I've now published 11 of them maybe. So I could set a much faster pace. They required some revision, but I could handle it, but I would not want to do that anymore. But I was writing 4 books a year there, and that was starting to scare me when I was getting all the books finally and starting to get caught up with all the ones I had, because I could really work ahead. Because I could turn those books in, and so I could write a book that wasn't due for a year and a half. So I wrote 19 books at that pace. But that was starting to make me pretty nervous. So I'm writing 2 books a year now, and occasionally throw in a novella. So, and I can keep that up. I'm doing it just exactly the speed that I want to do it. How many other books? Bonnie says, how many other books do you have planned? My 28th book just came out, and right now I have contracts for, I think, 36, up to 36. One more in this Trouble in Texas series, and then I just signed a contract for 6 more. I need my fingers. I need to take my shoes off to do this. 2 more novellas are coming. I think that gets me up to about 36 books. I'm not sure, something like that. Comment from Carol. Mary, do you only think about the next series or plot, or do you have ideas for many series in your head? I'm usually ahead right now. This next series that I'm working on with the women who fought in the war disguised as men, I haven't thought what to do next, but I'm just starting that. And a lot of times it's the research that I'm doing for this book I'm working right now that inspires the next series. Oddly enough, I have really been for a long time intrigued with the idea of barbed wire. That just sounds so lame, but the actual cowboy era, the whole cowboy era lasted still today. You can still write good cowboy books today, but the whole cattle drive cowboy era just ended. I mean, it ended in 1880 when they first started stringing barbed wire and the trains came through. There was no more of this cattle drive stuff. And it just really changed the West. So there's this very limited amount of time when this wide open range cowboy stuff went on. And I kind of want to write about that. I want to write about breaking up those huge ranches and that conflict. And in some ways, I'm catching some of that in this series, because my women disguise as men and go out west to be homesteaders, and they homestead on the land of this big cattle rancher who thinks it's all his. And anyway, so it's not quite what I want to do. I don't know. That sounds so exciting. Barbed wire. I have to come up with a little more than that. What is the book that has been published that took the shortest amount of time to write? Maybe the first one, maybe Golden Days. That's a short book though, so I don't know if that counts. Cowboy Christmas, I wrote that pretty fast. That's probably the first full-length book that I ever wrote after I started getting published, because they wanted to sandwich it in. I was publishing all these books that were already written, and then my publisher said, we want a Christmas book, and we kind of want it right here in the middle of all these already written books. So I had to okay, yeah, I can write a book for you. I don't know why I should though, because I got all these, but I'd be glad to. So all of a sudden I really had to dive in there and write that book. And then I did write, and that one that I wrote in a month, that was fast. So, yeah, there have been several I've written pretty fast. And, Cowboy Christmas, if that's the one that I did the fastest, that won a Carol Award. So that was pretty successful. I guess that was, maybe I should, I kind of like writing fast like that. You really keep the thread going. You really keep, you don't lose track of subplots and stuff like that. So sometimes if you linger over things, or if you get drawn out of them and go and revise some other book and then come back to it, you kind of really lose some of the details. So, comment from Bonnie. When is book 3 scheduled to be published? It's coming out, Stuck Together comes out in June 2014. Comment from Judy Burgee. Did you pattern any of your characters after a family member? You can start. Sometimes you can start a little bit with that, but mostly real people aren't crazy enough to really be good characters in books. You gotta exaggerate. You gotta go crazy. Who is your favorite Christian fiction author? That's just mean. That is just a mean question, and you should be ashamed of yourself for asking that. I have way too many very good and beloved friends, and I'm not going to answer that. Do you have much time to read? How many books do you usually read in a month? I am a reader. I am a crazed reader. You know what book I just finished that I just loved is Ruth Logan Hearn just published a book called Running on Empty. Honestly, Ruthie's a good friend, so, I would lie. But I'm not lying. One of the best books I've ever read. Absolutely loved it. Nothing much makes me cry. I'm just not a crier. It made me cry. Beautifully written book. Fun, dramatic, totally compelling book. It's brilliant. Just absolutely loved it. All my Seekerville buddies, I read their work. I read the work of the ladies on Petticoat Epistles. Of course, that's the stuff I love to read. So just finished The Rossetti Curse. Tina Radcliffe, Tina Russo, actually. That's the book. That's the name she published it under. And I don't know. I just can hardly get all my friends' books read. I don't hardly have time to do anything else. Got to read Shane. It's in there on the bookshelf. I got to get that done. So, I do read a lot. I also I reread a lot. When I have books I love, I go read them a lot and reread them, because that's how I get to sleep at night. I find if I have a new book that I really, really want to read, that keeps me awake, and I'm an insomniac, so that's a problem. Okay, I got a whole page of new questions, and I'm running out of time. I don't know for sure how much time I have here. So I'm going to look at this. Amy, my helper here, has sent me 2 emails full of questions, and I think I'm just going to go to this last page. I'm talking too much. Don't we all know that? And I'm just going to answer these last questions here. Comment from Carol. Have you ever met the guys who pose for your covers? No, I haven't. You know what? You know how old I am. When I meet good-looking young men, I just like checking them out for my daughters. It's just not even, or I'm just, or if I see them, I'm just like, you should have your shirt on. You're gonna be sorry you didn't wear a shirt when you're older. You need sunscreen. I mean, I'm just so old. This is not even. Comment from Naomi. Do you ever envision yourself running out of cowboy ideas, or do you have enough to keep you writing for the next 100 years? You know, I don't know. I keep thinking of stuff to write about. I love it. I've got ideas out now for the next 3 books. I guess I'll worry about the 3 books after that a little bit later because I'm really busy right now. And then I can always go to that barbed wire idea, I guess. Are any of your daughters interested in writing? You know, I don't know. They're great kids. They've all got great lives going on. I'm really proud of them. I know I'm a mom, so I can't be trusted, but I just think they're such terrific young ladies. And you know, all these books that I'm writing, if you knew my girls, you'd know that that's my accomplishment in life. I was a stay-at-home mom for 27 years, and they're really my life's work. They're just wonderful, accomplished, decent, bright young ladies who are wonderful. They're terrific. And I don't know. I think any of them have it in them to be a writer. Being a writer is a strange pastime. I think they're a little bit too social, a little bit. They're not like troubled loners like their mother is. I think they like people a little too much. So I don't know. I think they are certainly smart enough to do it, whether they have the mindset. I always say there's 2 things you need to do to be a writer. Two main basic skills. One is the craft, and that's something that we've been talking about on Seekerville for 6 years. Post something every day mainly on the craft of writing. But if you're willing to work hard, study hard, you can learn that. And the other one is just the temperament to sit by yourself for long hours making stuff up. And I don't know if you can learn that. It's not a very normal way to conduct yourself. So, and I don't know if the girls have that, and I'm not so sure I want them to have that. I feel kind of sorry for them. So that's, you know, I'd love it for them to be writers. I'll be interested to see if they ever want to be. Right now they're very busy, and they're living interesting social lives. I'm going to do one more question. Comment from Ruth Logan Hearn. Oh my gosh, I'm afraid to read it aloud. Oh, Ruthie, my beloved Ruthie. I'm kind of sad that we can't hear the cows, but I'm sure it's a relief to Mary. Mary, where did you come up with the wonderful name for your heroine and swept away? Named Ruthie, a little redhead who never quits working, who believes hard work is the solution to every problem. And she's also given to maybe scolding people. You know, after I got done writing that book, I just didn't quite realize how much that character was like a certain friend of mine, certain Seekerville buddy. Comment from Carol. Do negative reviews bother you, or are you able to ignore them? I've personally enjoyed all your books. Oh, Carol, you're such a good girl. I'll tell you what. This is really this helped me one day. I was reading free reviews. I try not to read them. I really do. I was reading reviews one day for some book, And these two reviews, one after the other, one said, Mary Connealy is the finest Christian writer of her generation. And that's about it. It was like one sentence. And the very next review said, what editor bought this book? I can't believe anybody printed this horrible book. I couldn't finish it. And I just thought, there you have it. There you have it. And you know what? If you have to believe one, don't you have to believe the other one? Really? Really, don't you? I mean, yeah. Everybody got their own opinion. Everybody gets to have their own opinion. You throw yourself out there in the world, and you know what? You just got to take it. I had 4 daughters. They spent most of their teen years just absolutely being embarrassed to death of me. I spent 10 years trying to get my book published. Many editors and agents and critiquers in contests told me my work was really terrible. I'm tough. I can take it. Oh boy, I can take it. So, you know what? If you can't take it, you just got to get out, because that's the way it is. That's the way. That's the writer's life. You put yourself out there in the public, and you just better take it, because it's part of the deal. Okay, it is 7:59, and unless Amy stops me, I am gonna declare this to be over. Is that okay, Amy? Send me an email quick to stop me if it's not. If we are going to post a link, I think Amy's been announcing winners, or maybe she's going to do that now, to all the giveaways. There will be a link on my Facebook page that will take you to a recap of all the winners, and you'll be able to check and see what all the prizes are, and if your name is among the winners. And Amy's not sending me a screaming email. No, you can't stop yet. So, thank you very much for coming. If there's anyone left out there still. I'm sitting in my kitchen, and I've been talking nonstop by myself to my laptop for 1 hour. And it's really a perfect behavior for a woman who sits by herself and types all day by herself. So, thank you very much for coming to my webcast. And my standards for success are that as long as we get out alive, I'm declaring it a success. Good night.